Hey, that was perfect. Thank you, Steve. Good to be back. Good to see you all back here today. The Money Day, is that what we're calling this? How to engage with STMD. We've got a lot of different engagement points, and providing some clarity around that, I think, is something we want to do, because just like Steve said, we get that feedback, people who aren't familiar with working with NASA or STMD in particular. So I'm Walt Engelund. I'm the Deputy Associate Administrator for Programs, and I'll tell you what that looks like. If I can get the next slide. Okay, so that if you saw anybody that wasn't here the last 2 days or that didn't see Jim, okay, a couple, so I'll run through this real quick. A couple of STMD people, so you don't need to pay attention. But for the people that really that weren't here, didn't see Jim, STMD is really all about building a pipeline and a capability for space technology, U.S. industry, academia, to basically enable U.S., I'd say, preeminence. But it's not just U.S. preeminence in technology, it's leadership and getting people around the world globally to come work with us. So we do that. We've got a strategic framework you can see here. It's basically advancing U.S. technology innovation for competitiveness in a global context, encouraging technology-driven economic growth, and inspiring the next generation of technologists and scientists and people to innovate and basically feed the pipeline. So I think that's what you're all here to help us do. So thank you for joining us. We have 10, depending on how you count them. Okay, we have 10 programs in the STMD portfolio. And I'm going to run through these, and then you're going to hear from some of our program executives and program directors this morning about how each of those programs are run and the funding opportunities associated with them. They're basically binned into 4 what we call cost account buckets at NASA. It's basically the accounting structure, but those 4 bins span the TRL pipeline, the technology readiness pipeline. So at the far left, we get early stage innovation and partnerships. That's the low TRL technologies and capabilities. It's basically the early stage innovation laboratories, we call it. I think you're going to hear from Jen Disketic here shortly. That's her program. She's the program director for ESIP. Space technology research grants is really our academic outreach. That's where we fund graduate students and early career professors and space technology research institutes, where we get several universities together on a big, hairy, audacious problem. And you'll hear more about each of these later this morning, but that STRG, Space Tech Research Grants, is our academic program. So if you're an academic, that's the place you want to plug in and really pay attention. Center Innovation Fund and Early Career Initiative, those are kind of our activities that we feed the NASA centers and the young early career individuals, and sort of the IRAD activities that go on at NASA centers. Anybody from a NASA center here? Okay, a couple. So we'll talk. You'll hear more about that. Prizes, challenges, and crowdsourcing is exactly what it sounds like. It's a really innovative program we have to essentially crowdsource ideas in a non-traditional way. You know, not the traditional contracting mechanisms or space act agreements. We basically put out a challenge or a thing, and we just let the sort of the non-traditional communities, or encourage non-traditional aerospace communities, to come in and give us creative solutions to those. So you'll hear more about that. And then NIAC program, NASA Innovation and Advanced Concepts. That's a program that goes back a long way. Actually predates STMD, but is one of my favorite. This is the sort of the nascent, really low TRL 0 to 1 kind of really innovative, almost sci-fi ideas come in, and we look at mission concepts that those new ideas would enable. I will tell you, it's probably the most competitive program in the whole portfolio. We get on the order of about 300 really, really interesting ideas, proposals every year, and we're only able to select about a dozen to 15, at least in the phase 1, and then we have a phase 2 and a phase 3 that kind of neck down. But hearing those in what we call the source selection meetings, hearing those ideas and the creativity is out there is one of my favorite meetings of the year. So if you're one of those people, come in through the NIAC door. It's a really, really fascinating set of opportunities. And then tech transfer is something we run for the whole agency. We've got the patenting and licensing of NASA technologies. We don't just do that for STMD technologies, but we run that for the whole agency. So aeronautics and science and exploration and STMD. That's sort of going the opposite way. If you want to license a technology that NASA has developed internally, that's the entry point there. SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research, and STTR, Tech Transfer Programs. We run that for the agency. Again, it's an agency level, aero, science, exploration, and STMD. It's about $250 million a year, round numbers. I don't know how familiar the small business, if you're a small business, that's probably a great place to plug in because there are a lot of opportunities there. It's competitive, but also the win rate on that is pretty high. We have a lot of people that, I won't say they exist on SBIR grants, but there's a lot of activity, a lot of energy. There's a community of people who basically rally around small business innovative research opportunities. You'll hear more about that today. Tech maturation is Nikki Werkheiser. She's the program director. You probably all know Nikki. That includes Game Change Development Program, which is the mid-TRL, sort of the TRL 3 to 6 program, and something called the Lunar Surface Innovation Initiative. Why we're all here today. That's not really a program, it's an initiative, but it's the organizational entity that we use to bring this community together and rally around all of these programs. And then finally on the far right is technology demonstration missions. That's the higher TRL, kind of the 5 to 7, where we actually go demonstrate technologies in a relevant environment, usually space, although not always. That includes TDM mission, Technology Demonstration Missions Program, which is kind of our big flagship demonstration program where the big dollars get spent, but only on a few demonstrations, roughly about a dozen active TDM missions. And then small spacecraft and flight opportunities. Chris Baker, who's here, I think you're going to hear from him later today, to tell you about that. That's another great set of programs that we sort of lump together, but they are two separate activities for demonstrating smaller scale capabilities, both in a suborbital and in the case of small spacecraft technology in an orbital environment. Okay. I don't know if the battery in this was working fine the other day. Jim showed this chart. If you didn't see it the other day, there's been a slight update to it. I won't read it, but these are recent within the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months since January. The awards that we've made, and you can see there are many in the various programs. If you go all the way down there to the 5th from the bottom, announcement of collaborative opportunities, we actually made the announcement yesterday, the ACOs. I think we awarded 16 of those. That was about $15 million. And Tipping Point, which is the kind of our big solicitation that feeds the GCD pipeline and some of the small spacecraft and TDM projects, that is forthcoming within the next couple of weeks. We made the preliminary selections. There's kind of a negotiation due diligence phase we have to go through, but that will be a pretty big number. That's probably on the order of something between $180 to $200 million. So those are the big solicitations and the big awards. We don't do those every year, probably at every other year cycle now, budget depending, but that's one that a lot of people pay attention to and want to really know, hey, when's the next tipping point opportunity? Let's see, we've got a couple more forthcoming in the next month or two, and then you'll hear about the cycle later this morning that'll feed the next round. By the numbers, this chart amazes me, astounds me every time I look at it. This is in FY22, so in 1 year, we evaluate over 3,300 proposals. About 750 of those get selected. So the win rate's pretty good. It's competitive, and depending on which program you're proposing to, the numbers are a little different. But 750 out of 3,300 is pretty good number. Hopefully people continue to be motivated to propose, and we want that to be the case. So. I won't read all those numbers to you, but in terms of the academics, we've got about 900 active academic, largely through STRG, Space Tech Research Grants, 1,300 industry collaborations with 700 companies. And the one that we really pay attention to is the transitions. So we invest all this money in space technologies. What we really want to do is make sure there's a pipeline to feed to missions or commercialization or other government agencies. And we've had about 1,000 of those happen since 2011. So that's the number we're really trying to increase. Okay, with that, I'm going to get off stage and let you hear about all of the details from the STMD folks. So have a great day. Good seeing you here this week for those of you who've been here the last 2 days, and we hope to see you in the fall in Pittsburgh, right? Okay, thanks everyone.